So I've been telling you the story about the Rice officer who was fired for driving 2 minutes away to a shooting. To help a fellow officer, Rice University fired him. And you have been unloading phone calls on Rice's chief of police, their president. We're going to give you some more numbers. But first, let's talk to that officer, Officer David Sedmak. Are you calling ducks in the middle of the show? Officer
Mike,
Sedmak?
how you doing?
Hello, sir.
Yes, sir, I'm here. How you doing?
It sounds like you're calling ducks in the middle of the show.
Does it really?
Yeah. Tell me what happened.
Well,
Walk me back, theater of the mind, and throw in just some extraneous details just for good measure. So you're on patrol at what time on that Saturday when you hear that officers have been shot?
Yeah, it was roughly 5:30 in the evening.
Okay, and what did you hear?
Well, I heard the calls for help from Fernando Meza, the HPD officer who was working at the Greyhound bus station, and it was very dramatic at that time. You know, overwhelming to hear him say those words: "Officer needs help. Officer down. Officer needs assistance."
So are you aware at that point that he's been? So you know he's been shot based on those words.
Yeah, well, basically, I mean, I heard him say over the radio that he had been shot and then he was down, and then he basically provided over the radio a description of the suspect in the last direction he had been seen traveling.
Okay, so then what did you do?
Well, I started to head in that direction. You know, I was just driving along, kind of heading that way. Usually what happens a lot of times when you hear an officer call for an assist, you know, when they're in need of help, a lot of times units will respond there and get there in a very timely manner. And usually what happens is when the other officers get there, you'll hear them say, you know, everything's under control, and then they'll start providing a description of the suspect and where he was last seen going. Well, in this case, as I started to head down in the direction of the Greyhound bus station, there weren't any officers that had arrived yet. So, you know, as far as I was concerned, the scene was still in progress. It was still a volatile situation at that time. So I continued on heading down that way. And as I made my way towards downtown, I got about roughly maybe halfway there. I would say probably a quarter of a mile to a mile outside of the university campus, and I hit my radio button to transmit to Rice PD dispatch that I was en route to this call. But prior to that, I had also broadcast over the air, over our Rice University Police radio, that you know, to the other officers that were on duty, and asked them if they'd been listening to the South Central Houston Police radio dispatch, and notified them that HPD had an officer down, and then there was a second broadcast over their air or over their radio that a second officer was down, and at that point there was more additional radio traffic coming in that these officers were taking live fire, and at that point then I realized, I was like, okay, this is an active shooter situation. We have a critical situation here that I had been trained for. I'd been to alert school. In February, I'd been sent to school to respond to situations like this.
Whoa. You had been sent to a school, Rice University had sent you to a school to train you in situations like this?
Yes, sir. And in February, I went to a week-long training class in San Marcos, Texas, to the alert training facility where I was trained to respond to an active shooter situation.
But
and
do you think their position was that was only active shooters on Rice University campus?
My interpretation of it is, once you're trained to be an alert instructor, and this is what I went to the school for, was to instruct other local area law enforcement officers and the officers at Rice University to prepare themselves for an active shooter confrontation. And the training that they provide certainly does not, tell us to only use that training that we've been given to, for the agency that we're working for.
Let me ask you this. Officer David Sedmak, the officer who was fired by Rice University, was it your belief at that moment that you should respond if an officer is down in close proximity to Rice University?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, it was. Without a doubt.
Was it your understanding at that moment that that was Rice University's policy?
It would be, yes, to my understanding, that when an officer calls for help, we respond to it. And what's sort of ironic here is that after I was called back to the station to meet with the major, she'd told me in our meeting that she could certainly see me responding to West University PD if they called for an assist, or the medical center area if there was an assist that was required there. And then she said, I would certainly not see you responding to 2121 South Main at the Greyhound bus station. And at that point, I was quite frankly bewildered. I couldn't draw the line in my mind what the difference was between West U, the medical center, or the Greyhound bus station.
Well, and let me tell our listeners, because we're in multiple cities, that
Sure.
means that, the western end of West University over west of Wesleyan is further from where you could be if you're on the east side of Rice University than if you went there. I have just a couple minutes. Let me ask a couple quick questions.
Sure.
Why not key the mic and say, I'm leaving the campus, I'll be at this active shooter situation? Why not do that?
Okay, well, there's a few factors that play in here, and one being when there's a lot of radio traffic going on like that. We've always been trained. You don't get on the radio. You respond. Okay, that's one of the first things many officers know, that when you're en route to an assist the officer, you don't get on the radio and start clogging up the radio. You just automatically start responding. The second factor that's playing an important part here in what they're leaving out is that it's well documented at the Rice University Police Department that there are significant issues involved with the radios, the police handheld radios there. There have been many times, on many instances, when we have been unable to broadcast on our radios with outside of a 2-block, or even at times within 1-block radius of the campus. So it's become a major safety concern among the officers there, and yet they don't want to seem to, probably address the problem the way they should, and that's, provide us with better radio equipment, or update the radio systems that they have.
Officer David Sedmak, the officer that was fired by Rice, tell me in 30 seconds or less why you really think you were fired.
It's hard to say. I can't really get my mind around this whole thing right now. I don't know, what reason they're using. They've tried to make it sound like it was because I was leaving my post. I don't know. I really don't know what the rationale behind it is right now. In my mind, it was my moral obligation to respond to the help of other officers and to protect the innocent civilian lives that were in danger that Saturday afternoon and on Mother's Day weekend in a highly populated area within close proximity to the Rice University campus.
And a situation that was a long, drawn-out shooting. I remember that evening, the mayor and the chief of police. My wife was downtown while this was going on, and she said she had never seen a scene like this in over 20 years of living in Houston, with all the officers, because of this long, drawn-out, active shooter scene. It could have been a hostage involved. It's a terrible situation. Officer David Sedmak, thanks for being our guest. Good luck to you. I think you're going to land on your feet. And I, for one, think that what you did is commendable. Commendable,
Thank you.
sir. Thank you. We're out of time. Let me say this. I'm posting the audio of what Officer Sedmak heard. I got it. I can't tell you where I got it, but I'm posting it to michaelberry.com. It'll be up shortly, and you can hear what he was listening to. You tell me an officer listening to that 2 minutes away shouldn't head over. It's harrowing. It's bone-chilling. michaelberry.com. Listen for yourself, and you can decide.